Smith. Deputy Smith, you have 4 minutes.
Agus gurma gutsa agus don chachta dali in on Ahrúlium con Aisha Hors Co Louth. First of all, I just want to say I've been watching the television recording of the PAC, the Committee on NAMA, and while I was thinking about what I'm going to say to the Minister today, it's very unfortunate Simon Coveney isn't here, but nevertheless, that figure of 190 million that we may have miscalculated in our sell-off of the NAMA portfolio in the north kept ringing through my brain. Because I want to tell you, Minister, you may have read or not read in the Irish Times today, but you will be aware that since January, the 23 families who were evicted by armed Gardaí and trucks from Woodland Park outside of Dundalk have not been rehoused in full. There are 7 families currently living on the side of the road without access to toilet or water or electricity. And among those 7 families, there are at least 6 children. 3 families have children under the age of 10. And I just spoke to another family who parked their caravan beside their mother's place somewhere in County Cavan and do a round trip every day of 100 k's to get the kids to school, because the one constant in the kids' lives is their school in Dundalk. And of course they're hopeful that they'll be rehoused and looked after in Dundalk. Now, they were promised back in March, when funding was meant to have been released to the local authority, that all of this would be complete, the estate would be refurbished and the families would be rehoused in Woodland Park by October, which is next week. Kitty Holland of the Irish Times went onto the site yesterday, and there were some men looking at maps and papers, and when she asked what was happening, excuse me, they said the job should start next week and would be completed in 12 weeks, which would bring us right up into the new year, right through the harshest part of the winter. Now, these 7 families that are living on the side of the road are just indicative, I believe, of what happens with traveller accommodation in this country. And Minister, I'm saying this to you as somebody who chaired the local Traveller Accommodation Committee for 6 years as my role in a local authority in Dublin City Council. And I never saw as much obfuscation, hesitation and deliberate twisting of figures, facts and promises that were made, in my experience, up until the last year I was there, when the staffing changed and different officers were put in charge. But for all travellers and all local authorities in this country, this is the experience, and the figures bear it out. In 2008, there were €40 million allocated to traveller accommodation. That went right down to €4 million in 2013. Last year, in 2015, there was €4.3 million allocated to traveller accommodation. The National Task Force on Traveller Accommodation in 1995, more than 2 decades ago, were dealing with the need for 3,100 new traveller units. Less than 10% of that has been delivered 2 decades later, and now we have a need for 3,741. And I can tell you from personal experience as a local authority rep, in Labra Park and Ballyfermot, it's been like pulling teeth trying to get bare amount of money to refurbish houses that were badly needed for families, and to get bays and basic facilities like toilets and water installed. But I'm here today really to make a plea, and I wanted to make this personally to Simon Coveney on behalf of Rebecca Quinn from Dundalk, whom I've just spoke to. She met with Simon Coveney with a political party representative some months ago, I think it was way back in May, and she was promised the sun, moon and stars that would be delivered. Since then, she has written to the Taoiseach, she has written to the Taoiseach, she has written to the Minister for Health, she has written to the Minister for Children. She has written several times to Simon Coveney and rang his office, and she has been ignored by everybody. The only answer she gets from Simon Coveney is, my officials will meet you. She does not want to meet the officials because nothing moves. And I will back her up 1,000% on that, because nothing does move until somebody is made a show of or has to pay for this. Those 7 families have to be accommodated. Work has to start immediately and with urgency on the Woodland site, and the money required has to be allocated, and somebody needs to stand over Dundalk County Council or Louth County Council with a big stick and ensure that they do it, and do not hide behind some other obfuscation or misuse of facts.
Accommodate And as a member and a former member of the local authority, every effort has been made. There are huge difficulties there.
Thank you, Minister.
Carola, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to address the House on the matter of the important matter of travel accommodation. And thank the Deputy for raising this issue as well, and also for the chance to correct some of the record. And I just want to start where you ended. First of all, my Senior Minister Simon Coveney couldn't be here today. He sends apologies for that, but I'm here on behalf of my workman in the Department, and as you know, he's directly involved in this issue as well. But just to be very clear, Simon Coveney is not in the business of promising the sun, moon and the stars. It's not what he does. I think it's unfair to say that. I think most people will at least respect that he's genuine what he tries to do. We're trying to tackle a housing crisis here, and it's a genuine attempt. And he does not promise sun, moon and stars. So if you really want to be helpful, I'd leave that kind of rhetoric out of here, to be honest with you, because we are, on a real matter. No, it's not relative. It's a silly way of approaching. It's a silly way of approaching any issue, to be honest with you.
Please don't engage with the Deputy. Just answer the question.
I should clarify at the outset that the Louth County Council is authority with statutory responsibility for the assessment of accommodation needs of travellers and the preparation, adoption and implementation of traveller accommodation programmes in the Louth area. Following the removal of families from Woodlands Park Halton site in January, Louth County Council commenced a review of its traveller accommodation programme 2014 to 2018 to facilitate all households and families who wish to make applications to be considered for housing or amend their accommodation type choice. The Local Traveller Accommodation Consultative Committee, the LTACC, is currently meeting with regard to this review. I believe it is important, as we discuss this matter in the House, that we do not undermine the key role of the Local Traveller Committee in this process. A media report published today suggests that there are 7 families on the roadside with no water supply. Louth County Council are aware of 4 caravans that have been placed at Naughton's Close, about 1 kilometre from the Woodlands Park site. The Council is not satisfied that these caravans are occupied. I understand that Louth County Council is currently investigating the situation to bring some clarity to the matter. The media report also suggests that the 7 families in question are among a number of families removed from Woodlands Park Halton site in January this year. While the family's representative claimed that there were 23 families on site at the time of the initial removal, only 15 families presented to Louth County Council seeking alternative accommodation. Only 15, just to be clear on that. Since the removals, the Council has met with every family who presented to them seeking accommodation. In line with housing regulations, where the Council considered that a family's housing needs were being met in other accommodation, they were not provided with emergency, hotel or B&B accommodation. However, of the 15 families who presented to the Council following the removals from the Woodlands Park site in January, 14 have since been accommodated through various social housing supports, including housing assist payment, social voluntary housing and emergency B&B accommodation. 1 family is no longer receiving support as they have refused 2 offers of accommodation from the Council. Immediately following the removals from Woodlands Park and in advance of the review of its travel accommodation plan referred to earlier, the Council formed the view that there would be likely demand for a halting site in the area and accordingly sought financial support from my department to refurbish the Woodlands Park site. This was granted, and the Council has advised my department that work on the site commenced last Monday morning, 27 9 2016, as scheduled. Accordingly, funding will be provided by my department in line with the approved budget for these works. Offers of accommodation on the site will be made by Louth County Council over the coming weeks, with likely occupation before year end. I have every confidence that Louth County Council will continue to work with the traveller families, the Local Traveller Accommodation Consultative Committee and all concerned to ensure that the accommodation needs of travellers in the area are met.
Thank you very much, Minister. Deputy Smith, you have 2 minutes.
First of all, as I said, I'm sorry if I rudely interrupted you, but the expression sun, moon and stars is a relative term, and in this case it could mean the supply of water or electricity or a simple home. So obviously I'm not saying that there's a demand for or a request for, or even that there's ever going to be lavishly expended on travellers what's often lavishly expended on other sectors of society. But travellers deserve, just like anybody else, that their human rights are fulfilled. And there are families, despite the obfuscation in your statement from Louth County Council about the numbers and whether they're living there or not, there are families who are being deprived of a decent place to live, and the plans which were presented to them following the eviction, which, by the way, and I'd like Minister Coveney to note this, as a member, as the chairperson of the LTACC, in a special meeting with representatives from his department, he wasn't Mr Coveney at the time, we were told, chairpersons of the LTACC, that when the Fire Brigade partook in the audit of all the halting sites around the country, no evictions without proper alternatives would ensue from those, checks on the halting sites. But this is exactly what happened in Dundalk, and all this time later, they're still waiting for that site to be refurbished. And I really do resent the in brackets as scheduled, because that is not what the original schedule said. The original schedule said that it would be ready by October, not beginning in October, ready by October. So now we have to put these families on the side of the road through the winter without the building being completed as was promised. And I will just repeat the request from Rebecca Quinn. She does want to meet Simon Coveney. I understand, because I'm a busy woman and I find it difficult to get appointments to meet somebody, and I'm not nearly as important, although I'm probably more important in some ways than he is. But he has, I would say, a duty to meet that woman. Since his last meeting, they've been let down left, right and centre. She represents the Dundalk travellers. She has requested repeatedly for a meeting with him, and I'm asking today to spare the time and meet her, and not fob her off to representatives of his department.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. 2 minutes to conclude.
Again, I would like to thank the deputies for their comments and observations, and assure them that we are committed to ensuring that traveller accommodation needs will be met in a safe and sustainable way. I would take the opportunity to reiterate that safety on halting sites is paramount in our view, and I hope that travellers will feel reassured by the steps that are being taken by our department in the context of the review of the fire safety programmes in traveller accommodation. You will be aware that my department published a report only last week. While recognising broader issues related to traveller accommodation, the review process focused on life safety and on the fire safety measures which are perceived to be the most effective in protecting life safety among the travellers. Recognising that what has been done is a first stage in a process which needs to be mainstreamed onto an ongoing works programme, the report makes a number of recommendations to clarify recommended approaches and to embed the issue of fire safety and traveller accommodation into future work programmes. One of the key recommendations to emerge from the report is that in order to mainstream fire safety as an ongoing item, it should be included as a standing item at all local LTACCs. At the same time, it is recommended that oversight of the LTACC's role in relation to fire safety and traveller accommodation be added to the brief of the National Traveller Accommodation Consultative Committee. The NTACC will seek regular updates to LTACCs are meeting at this requirement. I wish to assure the House that my department will continue to support and work with local authorities and national traveller representative groups to ensure the continued provision of safe and secure accommodation for travellers in accordance with their choice and through the comprehensive local and national collaborative structures which are in place. And to clarify again that work has begun on site, the money is allocated, and we expect work and people to be housed there before the end of the year.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Item number 4.